Hello, welcome to the IRONFIST FISTFULL. Today we are covering over the False Emperor on hard mode. This instance can be a little bit tricky for those of you who aren't experienced to kind of the interrupts, the getaways, or anything else that you've been kind of ignoring for the most part in the previous instances. This one is a lot less forgiving if you do not, hit an interrupt or anything else on there. Now, these strats that we use inside the hard mode can also be used on the normal mode, and in fact, I would suggest it just that way you get a little more prepared and used to kind of what's going on. So everything we're going to be doing is from the first boss all the way up to the last boss, Malgus. So sit back and relax because you are about to get fisted. Craig the Destroyer is going to be the first boss in which you encounter in the False Emperor flashpoint. This guy is kind of the, hey, is our group going to make it or not type boss. And the reason I say that is because he's a little healer intensive and a fight where you really have to pay attention. Not more so to pay attention to his auto attacks or anything else, but more of where your positioning is as far as getting knocked off or getting hit by any kind of whirlwind attacks. The way this boss is fought on hard mode is he'll be positioned kind of either on the front of his bridge where you first pick him up at, or back on the starting area where you first meet the boss or see the boss or anything else. How you're going to approach this fight is position yourself so you can't be knocked off the world, essentially, off the fight, and die, or so you have enough room to run around. He will randomly leap around to targets, and when he does this, he will begin to do a whirlwind attack. Whirlwind frenzy, whatever you want to consider it. When he does that, you need to get out of there. This cannot be healed through. He will do massive amounts of damage and drop whoever he's on. So just make sure that whoever he leaps on, there isn't anybody around there. Because it is an AoE attack, just run kind of the other direction, wait for him to get done, and continue to DPS. Of course, range, you can continue to attack him. There is no deflection or anything else with this guy. So make sure you're just kind of doing as much damage as possible because he does have an rage timer. When he hits the rage mode, you're pretty much going to drop very fast. So with this, the key points are going to be position, getting out of his AoE, and just DPS him down. The second boss of this amazing flashpoint is going to be Jindokray. He's a bounty hunter that comes flying from a ship onto the middle platform to cause all sorts of hell all over the place. This fight is not necessarily a difficult fight, it's just one of those kind of lengthy ones that you need to speed up as best as possible. So the first thing you're going to do on the approach of this fight is you're going to walk up and you're going to say, holy shit, there's a big ass ship over here. What am I going to do with this? Well, you're going to find out real quick. This ship can be attacked as it attacks you as well. So what you're going to actually be doing is taking two people, not one, two people, and you're going to run up at the same time to the middle turret. The reason for that is because Jindo will actually pull someone back once the fight is engaged and stop you from reaching that turret in time. This ship will move up and starts off at 100% damage to whoever it targets with missiles. And if it hits someone, it goes to 200, 300, and so on and so forth. So the person standing on the turret, preferably a ranged DPS or a healer if you don't have one, which is unfortunate in this instance, will actually go and attack the ship when it actually moves forward and its shield comes up. Do not attack it any sooner than when its shield first goes up. Otherwise, sometimes it glitches out and you don't actually get the hit on there. So wait for it to move forward, power up the shield, and then have whoever's standing in that middle turret or whatever turret they're on, as long as the ship's in front of it, have them attack it. Now, the boss himself is not really a difficult boss to kind of go along with. He will do his basic auto attacks on all the people around. Not a huge deal with that. The big thing to worry about and make sure that you interrupt 100% of the time is going to be his flamethrower. He'll start to do, kind of the spinny bounty hunter move that all of them do, where they start shooting flames out of their ass and their mouth and their arms and everything else all the way around on the map. You want to make sure you interrupt this. This AoE causes massive amounts of damage and can wipe out people quite easily, being that the ship is going to be shooting missiles down all the time and everything else. So, one part I did not actually hit on with the ship is after you hit it 5 times with the turrets, it will just be destroyed. Then all you have to do is worry about focusing on the boss, doing your interrupts, and burning him down. Him himself is not difficult at all. Just make sure that you're constantly moving around, avoiding the missiles, and he will knock people around every now and then. He'll just kind of run over and punch them. Not a big deal. Doesn't cause that much damage at all. So a relatively easy fight. You should be able to do it with very, very, very little effort. The third fight inside the False Emperor flashpoint is 2 giant-ass robots that are blocking the door. This fight is extremely easy in itself. You're going to have one that's going to be melee and one that's going to be range, and they're going to be kind of switching back and forth the entire time. How it goes is the tank will take the melee guy and bring him off to the side outside of the range's giant circle. And all you're going to do is kind of tank and spank and burn down the one that is not in the circle, the one that's not doing the range and anything. All you do is kind of attack him. The one that's in the circle will be throwing discs around at everybody. Not a big deal, does a little bit of damage. The thing you have to watch out for, however, with that is standing too close to someone. If you stand too close, it not only hits you, but it hits the next person that you're standing by. After a little while, the robots will switch. Then the one who is actually in range becomes a melee. The one that was melee becomes a range. Then you just have to move them around the map again. Not a hard fight at all. It's more so just kind of a positioning thing. Just make sure they're not inside the blue circle on there, and make sure you're not standing close enough to someone else that you both get hit with discs. Other than that, extremely easy fight. You should be able to do this with very little effort. The next boss in the False Emperor flashpoint is none other than HK-47. This assassination droid from hell has been seen from KOTOR all the way on up. Nice little public, whatever you want to consider it. This guy kind of gets a lot of people and their little kind of Star Wars nerdgasms kind of going because, you know, not only do you see Revan from back in frickin' Maelstrom in prison, you now see HK-47 here in the False Emperor. This guy, however, is kind of a pain in the ass of a fight up until you get used to what he ends up doing for abilities. How this fight works is pretty simple. So you're going to start off the fight kind of tanking him off right where he is. You want to just make sure you're just burning him as hard and as fast as you possibly can. During the fight, he's going to randomly snipe people. Now, this attack does about 6,000–7,000 damage. Not a big deal. Easily can be healed through because HK-47 himself really doesn't do a lot of damage to the tank. So you can easily swap from one target to the other. So just heal the snipes, not a big deal. Well, then he starts calling down some photon missiles, or whatever the heck they're called. They're going to put a targeting reticule underneath someone, and they're going to kind of target them for a few seconds, and then it goes away and reappears as a red one on the ground, stationary at that point, and a missile will hit it. So this actually comes important in the fight later on. So while you're DPSing him and everything else is kind of going down, you know, everything's real nice and smooth, kind of like a nice Captain Coke and just kind of sitting back, drinking, having a good time, suddenly shit hits the fan. Turrets pop up out of the side. What the hell are you going to do? You can't attack them because, hey, they got these giant ass shields on them. Well, this is where those missiles come into play. So when he targets someone with those missiles, what you're actually going to do is have that person run over and stand on top of the turret. Now, when they're standing on the turret and the missile starts coming down, just have them move off to the side, and the missile will now hit that turret and drop the shield. So this is where it comes into play of what choice you're going to do. Are you going to DPS down the turret, or are you going to continue fighting HK-47? Well, these turrets do not hit hard at all. This is a hard mode, and they are just pansy-ass turrets. So what you want to do is just make sure you knock down the shield on both the turrets on the left side and on the right side. By doing this, after you kill HK, you can actually kill the turrets and continue on with the dungeon. So once those shields are dropped down on there, he's starting to get kind of low health at this point, he'll start to vanish. So this is where the HK-47 fight kind of takes a turn for the worse. This is where they fixed the bug where you used to be able to use your PvP escape and everything else. Now you actually have to do this the correct way. So in order to counter this, one-shotting anybody, because if you do not get HK off someone, they are guaranteed dead. There is no way out of it. He just does way too much damage. It's about 7,000 damage every second. So he'll randomly vanish. What you want your group to do is to group up on the spot where you're tanking him at, right in the center. He'll reappear for a few seconds and he'll stun someone. When he does that, everybody needs to do their AoEs and burst attacks. By doing this, he will only hit them one time. 7,000, 8,000 damage, no big deal. Just make sure everybody's topped up before this happens, otherwise they're kind of screwed. So you'll hit him and that'll force him out of his vanish mode. When that happens, you just go back into the basic burn down of the fight. After HK-47, you will run into a mini-boss on the stairs. This guy is extremely easy. His name is Krondis Barani. I don't know how the hell to say his name. This guy is nothing more than a tank and spank. Literally, all you're going to do is pull him, kills two mobs behind him, and then just burn him down. He's kind of a little mini-boss just kind of thrown in there to give your tiniest crystals or whatever else kind of goes along with it. Real easy guy to kill, so there's really not much of a strap behind that. The next boss inside the False Emperor flashpoint is going to be the Sith entity. This boss is extremely easy, however he does have quite a bit of health on him, so it can make it a really lengthy fight. Again, you are battling rage timers inside this instance, so just make sure you're keeping up a continual amount of DPS and keep people topped off as far as healing and everything else goes. Pro tip for most of the healers out there, if you have time in between heals because your tank is capable of absorbing quite a bit of damage, make sure you're tossing up dots or damage or anything else off to the side. I like to use Vital Shot quite a bit in the middle of fights, just so I can toss up, that extra, 2,000 damage or so every 20 seconds. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Now, this boss right here, he has two main abilities that you really need to kind of watch out for. He has a Force Lightning attack that needs to be interrupted, and then he has a knockback. The knockback only really needs to be worried about when he hits an enraged mode, if it actually does get up to the point in which you have an enraged mode. So with this, he will break down into a group of 3 every now and then. I believe it's every 25% or so. He'll break down into 3 separate entities. These are extremely easy to kill. Highly suggested that you take out the healer one first. After you kill the healer, go to the Force Lightning guy, then the melee one, and then it'll merge back up into one. At that point, it's just back down to interrupting the Force Lightning and try not to get hit by his knockback if he's in an enrage. Really easy fight to do for the most part. Great loot for a bonus boss. And we are now up to the final boss of the False Emperor prison, Malgus himself. If you don't know who I'm talking about, then clearly you are not watching the cinematics and only care about raiding in the end game, which is perfectly fine, to be quite honest with you. Now, Malgus is a extremely easy fight once you get a hold of the concept with it. How you're going to do this is you're going to pull him behind his throne in which he starts. The reason for that is because he has this massive, massive knockback that he'll do. So if you're down in the hallway or anything else, then you'll just kind of get pushed back, miss out on DPS, everything else. This is not good at all. So how you're going to fight him is right in the back behind his throne, kind of nuts the butts up to the wall. You're going to have your tank on one side with your melee, and you're going to have your healer and your DPS on the other. Now, as the fight goes on, he's going to pick out one random person. This person ends up getting, thoughts in his mind of, kind of doubt and everything else. I believe the actual debuff is called doubt. Will get kind of put onto him, and you'll start walking really slow to the point where you pretty much stop. And then also you'll get stunned out. When you get stunned out at this point, the rest of the group is going to get force lifted into the air, force choked, whatever you want to consider it, and, well, of course they don't take any damage, and now it is you versus Malgus 1v1. Now you have 2 options with this, fight or flight. So you can either take and beat his ass down as much as possible to increase the amount of DPS on him, or you can start running around his throne and kind of kiting him around until the rest of the group gets put back down and is capable of continuing the DPS on the boss. So it's completely up to you as to how you want to approach this. Healers tend to have a little more difficult time as far as putting DPS on them, but they can stay alive pretty well. So, I mean, it's completely up to you as to how you want to approach this. Now, after everybody gets done being put back down, it's just back to the burning of the boss. So he will periodically do not really a large AoE amount of damage, but he'll periodically do AoE damage to everybody. This can be easily healed through with either a hot or anything else. As a smuggler, I like to just toss up my Kodo Cloud and heals everybody up. The only person I have to worry about is the tank. But I'm also able to drop, my freighter flybys and everything else to kind of increase the amount of DPS on Malgus while keeping my vital shots up. So this fight is nothing more than a back and forth the entire time on this one. Yeah, that's right. The big thing you need to worry about with him is what's called unlimited power. In hard mode, this is a kill. It will do 16,000, 17,000 damage, whatever, completely wipe out everybody on the face of the planet, essentially, or little area that you're at. Limited power can be interrupted. It's about a 4-second cast on there. Extremely easy to hit, but if you miss it, you are screwed. So that is kind of one of the big things on here that you need to watch out for. So for the most part, just keep an eye on the knockback, the unlimited power, and the force chokes and solos, and you'll be okay. But wait a second, how come I can't kill this boss after 15%, you might ask? Well, that's pretty kind of what we're getting at. So the 4th person who gets picked up and choked needs to run down below the throne, kind of off to the 2 sides where you have, kind of the edges and everything else on there. They're going to run down there, and after everybody else gets force choked or whatever else, they're going to run down as well. Now, hopefully this person has an interrupt because he likes to do his little AoE death destruction ability right after he gets done with force choking everybody up at the top. So what you can do is the whole entire group is going to run on down to him and continue DPSing down there. Well, actually, you can't DPS him because he becomes immortal, kind of a god mode bubble he's got going on. The only way to defeat Malgus at this point is you need 2 knockbacks or a stun and a knockback. So he'll be casting a non-stop amount of Force Lightning at this point. Really easy to heal through, but again, if you guys are kind of low on heals or anything else, it can be kind of a pain in the ass. So what you're going to do is while he's casting that, someone's going to stun him, or someone's going to knock him down, and then somebody else is going to knock him right off. And that's how you beat Malgus. It's just nothing more than a knockdown, a stun, and then a knock off right off to the side, and he's dead. So That's all there really is to the Malgus fight. Extremely easy to do. Just kind of keep an eye on that unlimited power, and you'll be able to take him down extremely well. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the Iron Fist Fistful, covering over the False Emperor on hard mode. Remember that all the strats that we use today can be used on normal mode as well until you get accustomed to all the strats, kind of how to beat everything. So once again, thank you for watching, and you have just been fisted.